Today we're going to look at the subject of economic growth. We're doing this in the studio with Professor Joe Nellis. Now, Joe, economic growth seems such a complicated area. Everybody says it's a good thing, and yet when you get too much of it, people start to worry. When you get too little of it, again, people seem to worry. So let's try and unpack this. What on earth is it, and what drives growth?
Well, first of all, let's give you the textbook definition. It's an increase in the output of the economy. That's it. Growth is an increase in the output of the economy. Now, why is that important? Well, I want you to imagine that the output is a cake, a large cake, and we're all going to share that cake. If the cake gets bigger, on average, we get a bigger slice, so living standards go up. If the cake gets smaller, as in a recession, well, then living standards fall. So it really is as simple as that. Growth is what gives us the output that we then enjoy in terms of goods and services, and therefore the income we generate, which we can then spend again on the output that we produce. So it's really quite important.
Now, is there a kind of, if you like, benchmark growth that we should all be aiming at? I mean, when I look around the world, China seems to be rocketing ahead. People are concerned, say in the UK, that growth is hardly there at all.
Well, yeah, it varies from country to country, of course. What is sustainable is going to be different in different countries. But let me explain that in a non-technical way. Imagine you've got a large balloon to blow up. This is a developing economy, large capacity. But the real problem is getting the balloon started, getting the economy growing initially. But once you've got growth beginning in an emerging market, developing economy, then you get rapid growth. It gets easier to expand output. So China's growing at more than 10% because it's got lots of spare capacity. But as that balloon fills up, as economies mature, as they become old economies, it gets harder to sustain fast growth. And so growth moderates perhaps down to 2.5%, maybe 3% per year. That's the increase in the output of the economy, given its land, its labour, its capital, its technology. It's inevitable that as economies mature, the rate of increase of the output slows down.
Now, governments seem to think they can do something about growth. Are they right?
Well, I hope they're right. Otherwise, we've been very fortunate for the last few thousand years. Yeah, the area of growth economics, or what's called supply-side economics, is concerned with the government putting in place the right policies to create the right environment which will stimulate investment by companies, which will stimulate working by labour, by us, to create long-term growth and output. So yeah, governments, they have a massive role to play in creating the right incentives, the right culture in which we can stimulate investment, production, output of goods and services, as well as people's willingness to work. So it's really quite critical. They have a massive role to play.
Now, Joe, I'm a bit confused. A lot of government talk is about short-term growth, and yet when I talk to people like you, economists, you tend to talk much more about long-term growth.
Well, Steve, that's quite easy to explain. Short-term growth is about getting us out of recession. Short-term is about business cycles. Long-term growth, much more important in a sense. It's about increasing living standards. And of course, over a long period of time, if we grow, let's say, at 2.5% per year, we double living standards roughly every 28 years. So it's about quality of life in some ways, as opposed to short-term recession recovery and so on.
So it's an incredibly complex area, growth. If you were to kind of sum up some of the key essentials about growth, what would they be?
Well, first of all, we need to maintain innovation in the economy in terms of new technologies. Old machines eventually, they break down, but their productivity doesn't increase. So we need innovation. We need more R&D. We need also investment in people. People's skills need to be developed to increase their productivity as well as their innovation. So capital investment, human investment, and as well as land, of course. I mean, ultimately we need land to put the buildings where people are going to produce goods and services. So we need to utilise our resources, including land, more efficiently. And all of this comes under the heading, as I said, of growth economics or supply-side economics. And governments can, of course, support R&D, support technology, support investment in people, universities, for example, support better use of land, more efficiency. Very complex, as you said, Steve, But really, you know, this is the meaning of life in a sense, that unless we grow, then we have to accept that living standards will not increase. And that's perhaps a different topic for a different day.
Some important messages in there, Joe. Thank you very much.
Thank you.